3 years after Eliza launched Elux globally, I live a peaceful life in a small coastal town in the south of France, where the sun is always gentle and the wind smells of lavender. I no longer do hair for clients, but I still keep an antique mirror in my room, where I look at myself every day and remind myself, Helen, today you are alive, you are smiling, so you have one. At 63, my hair is more than half gray. I no longer dye it. Not because I have abandoned myself, but because I find it beautiful. I have gone through war in my heart. Why should I be afraid of a few gray hairs on my skin? One autumn morning, I received a package from Eliza. Inside was a pink silk scarf, the color I used to love when I was young. A neatly handwritten card. Mom, I've been away long enough. I want you to come back to me, not to help me, but to let me take care of you. And at the bottom was a contract to transfer 10% of Elux Global shares in my name. With the message, I don't need anyone else to invest. You are the biggest contributor. With your whole life, your tears and your love. I flew to Paris, thinking I would only attend a small ceremony. But no. Eliza had arranged a penthouse overlooking the Seine, a small office with a velvet chair, and a private salon just for me. You don't need to do anyone's hair. But if one day you're sad, just come in here, hold the scissors, hold the comb. You'll feel like yourself again. And then on a golden Paris afternoon, Eliza walked in, hugging me from behind the chair. Mom, let me do your hair today. I paused. All my life I had done other people's hair. No one had ever touched my hair with love. Until that moment. Eliza carefully combed my hair, smoothing out each silver strand, not rushing, not trying to change anything. She just accepted my hair as I was. Experienced, straightforward, and strong. When I looked up, a tear had fallen without me knowing. Eliza gently wiped it away. You always thought you were just a sacrificial person. But do you know? To me, you are the reason I exist. And that was the last haircut I needed to do. Not for money, not for responsibility. Just because I was a mother, and for the first time I let my daughter comb my hair with all the love I had ever given. 3 months after her legal victory, Eliza was invited to a global startup training program in New York, with the opportunity to receive a $7 million investment package to expand Elux internationally. That evening, I saw my daughter sitting quietly by the window, holding a plane ticket in her hand. Mom, if I go, I might have to stay in the US for at least 2 years. Maybe longer. I smiled, making her a cup of tea as usual. So what are you afraid of? Afraid of going or afraid of leaving me behind? Eliza looked up at me, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm afraid that I'm too far from my success, Mom. I remembered the years when I had turned down so many opportunities because of the word family, only to receive a cheating husband, a child almost snatched from her arms. Now Eliza had the chance to rewrite that. I lived my whole life for others, Eliza. Now I live for myself. And you don't need to confine yourself to old memories to prove that you have a heart. I held her hand, my eyes determined. Go. But go with your own feet. If you go for your dream, I will wait for you with all my pride. But if you go because you are afraid of living for yourself, then I will be heartbroken. 3 weeks later, I saw Eliza off at the airport. She hugged me tightly. I will not disappear, Mom. I will only fly away to sow the seeds of our dreams. I smiled, not crying, because I knew this was not the end but a new door. 2 years later, I received a formal invitation from Elux Global to go to Paris to attend the opening ceremony of the first international branch, and to speak as the inspiring mother of the founder. On stage, Eliza held my hand in front of hundreds of people. Without my mother, this salon would be nothing. She didn't teach me how to do my hair. She taught me how to stand up, how to laugh after tears, how to love without breaking myself. Elux is the hair of women who dare to live the life they choose. I wiped away my tears and whispered in her ear. I don't need anyone to remember me. I just need you to fly. And remember that I am the sky behind you. 2 months after the trial, the Elux salon was thriving more than ever. Eliza was invited to a hair industry conference in Singapore, signed a contract with a high-end cosmetics brand from Japan. Meanwhile, I, Helen Dawson, spent time filling in the gaps in my life, learning to draw again, joining a women's startup group, and learning to dance. I thought everything was really peaceful, until one morning. I was making tea in the kitchen when I heard Eliza calling from the living room. "Mom, come here and see this." I walked out. On the TV screen, there was the image of a man in a gray suit, with gray hair, a familiar gaze. Daniel, my ex-husband, the man who had pushed me and my daughter to poverty. News: businessman Daniel Dawson, who went bankrupt in the 90s, has just announced his return to business with the luxury salon chain The-Edge. This comeback comes with a legal claim that the brand name eLuxe is currently copyright infringement and was built from his undivided marital assets. Eliza was stunned. I clenched my teacup. He didn't come back to start a business. He came back to kill the only thing Eliza and I had left, our dream. The next day I received a court order. Daniel sued us for infringement of intellectual property rights and fraudulent financial branding. Eliza panicked. "Mom, if he wins, my salon will." I grabbed her hand and squeezed it tightly. "You won't lose anything. He just doesn't know that I've been preparing for a long time." That night I quietly took a small black box out of the safe. Inside were an old diary, an audio recording, and a VHS video, evidence I'd kept for 30 years. Daniel signing off on the money he owed me after the divorce, along with a confession about embezzling the company. I kept them because I didn't want my daughter to know. Now it was time to use them. At the preliminary hearing, Daniel's attorney strode in confidently, filed a lawsuit and a file of the The-Edge trademark, along with a complaint. Helen Dawson used undivided marital assets to illegally fund her daughter's business. I stood up. I hereby submit the original transcript of the recorded confession, along with the signed and notarized property settlement agreement dated September 15, 1996. The court asked to hear the tape again. Daniel's voice rang out in the courtroom clearly. "I accept to hand over all the remaining assets to my wife, as long as you don't bring the matter of me withdrawing the company's funds to the law." The courtroom was dead silent. The opposing lawyer quickly asked for a postponement. After the trial, I walked out into the hallway. Daniel stood there, his face stern. "How many years have you kept that tape just to kill me?" I smiled calmly. "No, Daniel. I kept it to remind myself how stupid I was to love you. As for killing you, no need. You did it yourself a long time ago." The court dismissed the entire lawsuit. Not only did Eliza keep her salon, but she was also honored by the media as an inspiring entrepreneurial icon. A young woman who stepped out of her mother's shadow to create her own light. As for me, I sat in the small garden, holding the comb Eliza had given me. The comb with the words "Mama, you raised a queen" engraved on it, and for the first time I felt truly at peace. Salon eLuxe is reborn brilliantly under the hands of Eliza. No longer a cheap hair salon, it is now a destination for successful, famous women, both because of the technique and because of the story behind the brand. A mother passes on her dream to her daughter with trust instead of blind sacrifice. Every guest who comes feels like they are entering a place with a soul. And I, Helen Dawson, just stand behind, occasionally pouring tea, sometimes nodding when Eliza asks for advice. I don't need to stand on stage. I just need to watch my daughter stand firm. But fate never stops testing those who have fallen. One day in early spring, when I was preparing to close the accounting books, my personal lawyer called. "Helen, there is a problem. Almost 30 years ago, you were a guarantee for your husband's old company, the company that later went bankrupt." I was stunned. I thought that case was settled a long time ago. The lawyer sighed. "We thought so too. But a former investor just filed a complaint, and they dug up all the papers. There's your signature. The problem is, they suspect fraud on the property." I understood. They were implying that the current house, the salon, might be the result of a financial evasion 30 years ago. If she was found guilty, Eliza would lose everything. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't want her to panic. I went back to my old apartment, where I'd lived after the divorce, and went through every old file, every receipt, every copy of a document from the 90s. I spent the night reading with a dim yellow light and a severe backache. I found something. An old fax with a fake signature. Not mine. The next morning I went straight to court. I gave the new file to the lawyer, asking to open a counterclaim. The lawyer was surprised. "You want to sue back?" I nodded. "I don't just want to clear my name. I want to teach those behind the scenes a lesson. There are women who have kept silent not because they are weak, but because they are choosing the right time to fight back. A hearing took place quietly without anyone knowing. It was just me, the lawyer, and the representative of the plaintiff, a financial group that had been involved with my ex-husband and pushed him into bankruptcy, and secretly let me take on the debt. But now I had evidence. And for the first time I looked straight at the people who had almost made me lose everything. I am no longer the woman who was betrayed, raising my children in fear and humiliation. I am the one who stood up, and I will reclaim everything that is rightfully mine. The trial ended in my favor. Not only that, I was awarded honorarium and a settlement of nearly $1 million after 30 years of suffering. I returned to the salon, where Eliza was standing by the glass door, adjusting the skills of a young apprentice. Seeing me, my daughter smiled. "Where have you been all day without saying anything?" I didn't answer, just placed a thick envelope on the table. "It's mine." She opened it, looked at the number and was stunned. "Mom, what is this?" I smiled softly. "It's the past you never dared to tell me. Now you've cleaned up this salon, and you deserve to move forward without a trace." Eliza burst into tears. For the first time in her life, my daughter hugged me tightly. "Mom, now I believe. Your silence was never weakness." Time passed in a false peace. Eliza had been with me for almost a year, working hard, speaking little but politely. Sometimes I caught her silently looking at the small photo of her father, the man who had passed away when she was 8, then bowing her head slightly as if hiding something she could not put into words. One rainy afternoon in late autumn, while I was cleaning the salon, Eliza's phone rang. She hurriedly went outside to answer it, looking uneasy. I was not in the habit of snooping, but my instinct told me something was coming, and it was not as gentle as the afternoon rain. 3 days later, Eliza suddenly asked for leave. No explanation. I silently accepted, but my heart sank once again because I realized that my daughter had not yet learned the lesson of trust. A week later, I received an anonymous email. No signature, no source. But attached was a series of documents. Transfer of the salon brand Elux. From Helen Dawson to Daniel Reed. Daniel Reed, Eliza's ex-husband, the man who betrayed my daughter, using the name of legal assistance to rob her of most of the shares when Eliza was young and naive. Now he is back, this time with the ultimate goal: to take away the remaining assets that Eliza had spent her blood and tears to rebuild. I was speechless. She was fooled again. But this time she was not alone. I did not call Eliza. I did not visit her. Instead, I went straight to my lawyer's office. Prepare the lawsuit. Illegal transfer, breach of trust, forced signing under the influence of a deranged mind. My lawyer was surprised. "Miss Helen, do you have any evidence?" I nodded, pulling out a recording from her pocket. Eliza's voice rang out, broken, almost choking. "Daniel, I can't, my mother will know." And then the man's voice laughed coldly. "You think she'll help you? Don't forget who did the first salon transfer paperwork." I sent the recording along with a legal warning letter to Daniel. 3 days later, his lawyer called, trying to negotiate, offering a win-win solution. I refused. I don't want profit. I want justice. Eliza returned to the salon late one afternoon, her eyes red and puffy, her clothes wrinkled, holding a stack of documents. She knelt down for the second time in her life. "Mom, I was wrong. He tricked me into signing. I just wanted to get the salon back. Without getting you involved, I ruined everything." I walked over, sat down, and put my hand on her shoulder. "Do you think I don't know? You tried to protect me." And for the first time, I saw that my daughter was no longer a child. I handed her a new contract, this time from me. "The 70% of the shares I used to hold are now yours. But this time it's not a gift. It's trust." Eliza burst into tears. A week later, Daniel received an official summons from the court. The brands he owned were being investigated upstream. And me? I sat in the salon, watching Eliza personally sign a partnership contract with a high-end cosmetics chain for the first time. Her smile was bright, but her eyes mature. My daughter finally stood up. Not for revenge, but because she knew how to protect herself. I stood there watching my daughter kneel at my feet, her elegant dress wrinkled, her makeup smeared with tears. "I was wrong, Mom. I have no one else. They all left me. Please help me. Eliza took my hand, but those hands, once the tiny hands I held when I crossed the street, now reminded me of the invisible pushes she had used to push me out of her life. I didn't answer right away. I just put my hand on her shoulder, as gently as a skilled hairdresser touching hair about to be cut. I will help you, I said in a soft voice. But not as a mother. As a partner. Eliza looked up, her eyes still wet, bewildered. Partner. I smiled. You said I wasn't qualified to stand in your wedding. Now you don't need me, you need an investor, right? I pulled out a contract from my old leather briefcase. Nothing fancy. Just a few black and white pieces of paper. I'll pay off your $470,000 debt. In return, you become a major shareholder in the salon brand I own. 70% of the shares. And, I paused. You work for me. 5 years. No quitting, no disappearing. Hourly pay. Eliza paled. Are you punishing me? She asked, her voice breaking. I just smiled. No. I'm repaying you. For teaching me that love doesn't mean stupidity. And also for letting you relearn the first lesson I taught you when you were 5. If you want something, you have to work for it. She was silent. I put the contract down on the table. Whether you sign it or not is up to you. But if you leave this house today, I will no longer have a daughter. 2 weeks later, Eliza officially returned to the salon. But not as a boss. As an apprentice. Every day she arrived earlier than me, greeting me like a proper employee. The mom and mom, can you help me? Disappeared. Instead it was, Miss Helen, can I be in charge of the shampooing today? She began to relearn each step, from washing hair properly, to holding the scissors so her hands wouldn't shake. And surprisingly, she did it. A month, 2 months, 3 months passed. Customers began to like Eliza. They didn't know she was my daughter. I never let on. They just saw a patient, quiet but polite young hairdresser. And it seemed like something inside Eliza was starting to soften. But I wasn't done yet. One evening I handed Eliza a small box. Open it. Inside was a wooden comb. The back was engraved with a faint inscription. Eliza. My hair was the most beautiful when you were a baby. Eliza burst into tears. For the first time in 6 months she called me with 2 words. Mommy. I said nothing. I just squeezed her hand. For the first time in years we were no longer mother and daughter in name, but 2 women, each hurt, each wrong, learning to forgive each other, slowly but surely. I used to think that if I raised my daughter with all my love and sacrifice, one day she would realize and appreciate me. But I was wrong. My daughter Eliza has become the person who has hurt me the most in the world. Not because she hates me, but because she sees me as a tool, a temporary bridge for her to cross without looking back. I am a hairdresser, a profession I have pursued for more than 40 years. Beautiful hair can make women more confident, but I never thought that the hands that take care of hundreds of people's hair could not keep the heart of my own child. When Eliza was little, I spent every penny to pay for her tuition to go to an international school, cutting her hair all night, my hands chapped from chemicals just to have enough money to buy her first performance dress. I am not rich, but I do everything in the hope that my child will have a life that I never had. The year my child went to college, I sold my ancestral home to buy her an apartment near the school. I moved into a cramped rented house, lived frugally, and told myself that when she became successful, she would understand. But the year Eliza got married, I was not invited. I only received a cold card with a message. Don't come, Mom. My husband's family doesn't want the past to tarnish my image. I cried until I had no more tears left. But I didn't blame her. I still thought she was influenced by her husband's family and society. I still transferred money regularly into her account, using the excuse for my grandchildren in the future. It wasn't until I discovered that Eliza had used that money to buy a car for her husband, take her mother-in-law on a trip to Europe while I was still eating instant porridge and living in a 15 square meters rented room that I realized. It wasn't that Eliza didn't understand my love, it was that she didn't need it anymore. I quietly sold my hair salon and got a job as a high-end hairdresser in a 5-star resort, where customers didn't know who I was, but paid me what I was worth. In 5 years, I saved more than $1.2 million US. And then I heard that Eliza was bankrupt because her husband cheated her. She came to me, knelt down and said, Mom is the last place I can go back to. I looked at her, not a single tear. No more anger, no more gloating. Only a plan began to form in my mind. I would save her, but this time in my own way. No longer as her mother, but as her creditor. And also the one who would teach her the final lesson.